Hi guys, in today's lesson, I'll be teaching us spontaneous reaction and non-spontaneous reaction under thermochemistry. Don't forget that this is a series teaching. I've talked about what energy changes and also talked about thermodynamics. If you guys have not watched those my two previous videos, I want you guys to watch those videos. So in today's lesson, our major focus will be on what spontaneous and non-spontaneous what reaction. But I'll be starting first with spontaneous reaction. Now, what is spontaneous reaction? Now, please take note that a spontaneous reaction is a type of reaction that occurs naturally on its own without the help of what of an external energy under a given condition. So please take note that a spontaneous reaction is a type of reaction that occurs naturally on its own without the help of an external energy or force at a given condition. So please take note of what? Take note of this. They don't need any external help. They occur naturally or what? On their own. So please take note of what? Take note of this about what? About spontaneous reaction. Now let's talk about what? Some of the example of what? Of spontaneous reaction. Please take note that one of the examples of spontaneous reaction is what? Burning of what? Burning of fuel. So burning of fuel, burning of fuel is what is one of the reaction one of the example under what spontaneous reaction. So you please take note of what? Take note of this. Now another example of spontaneous reaction is what? Rusting of iron. So rusting of iron is another good example of what? Of spontaneous reaction. You see all this, they just occur naturally on their own. You know that for iron to rust, there must be what? There must be what? Water. There will be water, and it must take place in the place of what? In the place of air. And you know that air contains what? Oxygen. So they just occur what? Naturally or what? On their own, without any external energy. Are you seeing it now? So another example again, under spontaneous reaction is what? Melting of ice. Melting of what? Of ice. Melting of ice. So this is the first one. This is what? Second one. This is what? The third one. So melting of ice happens to be what? Another good example of what? Of spontaneous reaction that occurs naturally on its own without the help of what? Of an external energy under what? Under a given condition. So you please take note of what? Take note of this under what? Spontaneous reaction. Now please take note that spontaneous reaction is usually being linked towards this free energy. So also please take note of that. And also please take note that delta G, which happens to be this free energy, please take note that delta G is equals to what? Negative. Delta G is what? Negative for what? For a spontaneous reaction. For what? For a spontaneous reaction. So please take note of what? Take note of this, that delta G is what? Negative. Is what? Negative. Delta G is what? Negative for what? For a spontaneous reaction. So please take note of this. And earlier on, I said that a spontaneous reaction is a type of reaction that occurs naturally on its own without the help of what? Of an external energy. So please take note of this. And they were talking about some of the type of what? Of spontaneous reaction, which include what? Burning of fuel, rusting of iron, melting of what? Of ice. And then earlier on, I also said that spontaneous reaction they are being linked with what? With this free energy. And I said that delta G for what? Spontaneous reaction is what? Is negative. So please take note of what? Take note of this. I've seen this in jump pass question before. That's the reason why I brought out this part out in today's class, because of course one of my students messaged me to teach on what spontaneous and what non-spontaneous reaction. So I thought it was right to bring it out to the public. So that's the reason why I'm teaching what spontaneous and non-spontaneous reaction in this part of what thermochemistry. So from here, we'll be moving straight to the other part, which happens to be what? Non-spontaneous reaction. Please take note that non-spontaneous reaction is the opposite of what? Of spontaneous reaction. Now, what is non-spontaneous reaction? Please take note that a non-spontaneous reaction is a type of reaction that cannot occur naturally on its own. That is, it needs the help of what? Of an external energy. to be able to what? To be able to occur during what? During a given time. So please take note of what? Take note of this. Earlier on, when I was explaining the spontaneous reaction, I said that spontaneous reaction is a type of reaction that occurs naturally on its own. But please also take note of this. Because a spontaneous reaction occurs naturally on its own, does not mean that it occurs fast. There's some reaction that occurs that are spontaneous reaction, but still yet they do not occur fast. So a reaction being spontaneous does not mean that it will also occur fast. So please also take note of what? Also take note of that. So I'm explaining the non-spontaneous reaction now. I think that the non-spontaneous reaction is a type of reaction that cannot occur naturally on its own. It needs what? The help of what? Of an external energy to be able to what? To be able to occur. And please also take note that delta G for the non-spontaneous reaction for what? For the non what? Spontaneous reaction. Please take note of this. For the non-spontaneous reaction, please take note that delta G is equal to what? Positive. So delta G is what? Positive for a non-spontaneous reaction. Positive. For what? For a non-spontaneous reaction, whereby delta G is what? Negative for what? For a spontaneous reaction. But for a non-spontaneous reaction, delta G is what? Positive. So please take note of this. Whereby for in equilibrium, delta G is what? Delta G is equals to what? 0. So please take note of this. During equilibrium, delta G is what? Equal to what? 0. So during equilibrium, you see this delta G, which is this gives free energy, it was is 0, because the two forms of a substance that what? They are being balanced. But in the spontaneous reaction, delta G is what? Negative. While the non-spontaneous reaction, delta G is what? Positive. So you should please take note of what? Take note of this. Now let's talk about one of the examples of what? Of non-spontaneous reaction. Please take note that one of the examples of non-spontaneous reaction is what? Photosynthesis is what? Plant. So photosynthesis is what? Is one of the example of what? Of a non-spontaneous reaction. Now let's write the equation for photosynthesis in what? In plant, where we have what? CO2 plus what? H2O will give us C6H12O what? O6 plus O2. Where we have 6 here, we have 6, and then we have what? 6. So this the photosynthesis what? Equation. Now what is photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is the ability of plant to be able to what? To be able to manufacture their own food through the help of sunlight, whereby chlorophyll, which is the green pigment of plant. So chlorophyll, which happens to be what? The green pigment of plant is present to what? In that particular what? In that particular plant. So for plants to be able to manufacture their own food, they need what? They need energy from sunlight to combine with what? With the chlorophyll which they have to be able to what? To be able to manufacture their own food. And when I was explaining the non-spontaneous reaction just now, I said that the non-spontaneous reaction, they are reactions that cannot occur on their own. They need the help of an external energy. Now, plants that contain chlorophyll cannot manufacture their own food by themselves. That is the autotrophs. They cannot what? Manufacture their own food by what? By themselves. Even when they contain what? This chlorophyll, they cannot still what? Manufacture their own food by themselves. They need the help of energy from what? From the sunlight. So from the sunlight. So they need what? Energy from what? From the sunlight, in order for them to be able to what? Generate their what? Their own food. So this is what? A typical example of what? Of non-spontaneous reaction. They cannot occur on their own. They cannot occur naturally on their own. They need the help of what? They need the help of what? Of external energy to be able to what? To be able to occur. So this was what? This is just an example of what? Of the non-spontaneous reaction rather. So please what? Take note of this. So with this, we have come to the end of what? Of today's lesson. So with this, we have come to the end of what? Of today's lesson. If you find this video very interesting, I want you to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Divine Online Chemistry Tutorial. Don't forget to like my video. Don't forget to subscribe to my video. And don't forget to also share my video. Bye and see you in my next post.